Welcome back to the show. My guest today is author Aaron Chapman. He's written 6 books, now 7 books, and he's getting into politics. This is the random episode. Welcome to the show, dude.
Good to see you again, Bob.
You
Good to be back.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can talk about politics later.
Sure.
And I actually have a policy where I don't invite sitting politicians.
Well, I'm not sitting yet.
I know you're
I'm
sitting. You're
sitting now,
on the
but yes.
cusp of being on the other show that's on this channel,
Gotcha.
Mo's show.
Yes.
which is a show that you should be on.
Maybe, yeah. I've
Talk about
never been on
politics.
one. I know Mo, but I've never been on a show yet.
Mo, there you go.
There we go.
But we're here to talk about
Yes.
your next book.
Yes.
Is about Doug and the Slugs.
It is. We are just on the heels of A Sign of the Times, a book about the Penthouse Marquee sign. The story, Real Enough, The Unlikely History of Doug and the Slugs, which is a band that if you were around in the 80s, or maybe somebody of my vintage, I'm just maybe a little bit older than yourself, that you'll remember as being one of the great Vancouver bands that went sort of national and promised to go sort of international and didn't, but are still a very beloved band in the hearts, and they're still around. They still play, minus Doug, with a new Doug, I suppose.
There's a new Doug.
There's a new Doug. Yeah, Doug passed away about 2 decades back.
That I knew.
Yeah, there you go. And but the book sort of follows. They're a difficult band to sort of classify, but they wrote so many songs. They were a band that would sell at the Commodore 4 nights in a row. You know, very few local unsigned bands could do that. You know, like there's an exclusive club of a band that can fill the Commodore for 4 nights.
No kidding.
So they were huge in Vancouver, and they were very big across Canada. They never really broke necessarily in a big way internationally, but they're still beloved as a Canadian act. There's still a lot of people who cherish those records and like those songs. And the amazing thing is, Simon Kendall, one of the Slugs, has written the book. I chime in there as well. I have some of my own sort of little essays in the middle of it. But we have Doug's diaries, his private diaries, which have never been sort of fully published, anything like this. So Doug kind of speaks from beyond and chimes in, and sometimes he's almost conversing with Simon, or they're talking about the same place and the same story, and kind of maybe they disagree with one another. So it's kind of a wonderful thing to have his voice back, because he was quite a good writer. He wrote sort of like he lived, even though these were private diaries, and some of the guys in the band remember him scribbling them in the back of the bus and whatnot.
They're written. They
were written.
Whoa.
And they're typed. They're handwritten diaries that he wrote. And he was a very good artist, so his penmanship is beautiful. But to have Doug's voice back again, and as I say, he writes like he lived, that everybody was watching him, and he had a certain ego that a lot of lead singers have, I suppose.
Sure, yeah.
And that comes forth, and some of his humor and his personality, which has been gone for so long in the last 20 years, is kind of back to appreciate again. And he's a great storyteller, and he's a great sort of diarist and anecdotist in a sense. So it's fun to have him back in this world, and you know, it's a chance to sort of kind of relive that band again.
I remember as a kid just being like, "What is this band?"
Yeah,
what
exactly.
A funny...
Yeah. So it's a book about them. It's a music book, a little bit of sort of music history, and also sort of where they fit. And looking back, what was it about them that worked, or you know, it's sort of hard to define, hard to pin down. Thing. A few years ago, they had the Doug and the Slugs 40th anniversary at the Commodore Ballroom, and I hadn't seen the dance floor see a workout like that in years.
Cool.
You know, everybody kind of came up, people of all ages, kids who had never seen the band, came with their parents who used to play the records, and it was a really unique evening. I think that sort of, in my own mind, I thought, geez, this would be neat to see, look back on a story, you know, retold again. And Simon was such a great writer and a perfect guy to help tell that story and bring it to life, you know.
Cool. So it's out by the time this episode is out.
It'll probably be out in stores anywhere you look, anywhere in BC, across Canada.
Yep. Have a look here.
Yep.
Let's get into politics.
Yes, sir.
What is happening?
Well, I decided, you know, I had a little bit of shift in what my schedule and what my... I don't have an immediate book project on the go, so I thought to myself, with the October civic election coming up in October 2026
in Vancouver,
BC, I thought maybe it's something that I'd always considered. I always had an eye on it. I was always interested in municipal affairs, like I am, and I thought, you know, there's never been a Vancouver historian on city council.
Yeah.
Somebody told me the other day that, well, you're the most interesting person, Aaron, that's running for city council. And I said, is that a compliment or an insult? I wasn't sure, because, you know, a lot of the people who go for that job are lawyers, urban planners, people who are housing activists, and I don't come from that world necessarily. I'm a person that's written 6, 7 books about the history of the city and some of the elements and things and people and places in it. And, I've always had an interest in heritage preservation and the history of the city and stuff like that. And I thought it might be interesting to have that voice directly on city council. I mean, I'm interested in public safety and transportation and housing, like all the other subjects and the big subjects there are. But I decided to throw my hat in. And right now I'm just looking to get on the ballot with One City Vancouver.
Yep.
It's a competitive field. There's a good dozen of us, probably all looking to occupy 5 or 6 positions and whatnot.
Yep.
So, but it's been really fun getting out there and meeting people, and not only just meeting the other candidates and other people involved from other parties as well, and just people who have an interest in the city and are that passionate about it that they want to throw themselves into hours-long meetings.
Absolutely.
And volumes of reading on municipal codes and stuff like that. So.
I admire you for doing it. I don't do political endorsements, but I will say that you are not the most interesting candidate in the air quotes, because the sax man, the saxophone guy, Mr. Peanut ran, you know that. I think that when somebody says interesting, I don't think that's a compliment. I'm saying you are a very interesting candidate.
Well, thank you. This election, maybe. I love Mr. Peanut. I would have voted for Mr. Peanut too.
This election.
Yeah, this election.
But you're no Mr. Saxman, because they were joke candidates.
Right.
You're serious, and I think you'll do a great job.
Well, thank you,
Bob.
I appreciate it.
And I have no doubt you're going to get the nomination, and we'll see what happens at City Hall in the future. We'll see you talking more about books on this show in the future. For now, Nina is out on the streets talking to people about things that they like.